Hi, I'm Lauren Edmunds. I'm the founder and owner of a school that supports children with learning delays. I'm hoping this space gives you something to think about.
I want to talk this story through with you. I think it's an amazing story. I haven't fact-checked it because it's actually not relevant how true it is, because the story itself illustrates a point that I want to make when it comes to schooling and the schooling of children with neurodiversity. In fact, the schooling of all children. So it's a story I was told once, and I want to preface it by talking about, I was overseas. I was lucky enough to be in Europe when I was in my teenage years, and I happened to be at the museum where the statue of David was. And how it was positioned was you walked down a hall and then you needed to do a dogleg right, and then at the end of that passage was this beautiful, incredible, I think it's 7 foot, 8 foot tall statue of David. But before that, you get kind of put up against, or you see these huge big blocks of stone, and only half a figure of a man is sculpted out of the stone. So it looks like these men are breaking out of this rock. So now the story goes that there was this huge big block of stone, and a number of sculptors were asked to sculpt something, and they struggled. They couldn't see what it was going to be. They couldn't visualize what was inside the stone, and they just couldn't get it right. And Michelangelo came along, and my understanding is he was very young at the time, probably 18. And he started carving, and out of the stone came this magnificent, revered statue of David, beautiful, tall, pristine. And he was asked, how on earth did you get that right? And his answer was so simple. He said, David was in there all along. I just needed to chip away at the parts that weren't him. Now that is how I see the healing and remediation of children who have learning difficulties and who have neurodiversity that are not being understood and not being catered for in the system. We're not trying to change the child. We're not trying to mold the child into something we want them to be. They already exist, trapped underneath some things that are making life hard for them. And all we're doing as parents and as teachers is taking away the parts that are not them. The things that I think about that would not be a child is excessive anxiety, right? Not being able to make friends, really struggling to ask for something that they need, feeling overwhelmed by noise and overstimulation of sight. All of these things are keeping the rock in place so that their true self can't come out. We're not trying to change their neurodiversity. We're not trying to change their personality. We're not trying to make them anything else than what they truly are. We're just releasing them from the things that are making them trapped, keeping them trapped in the stone. So the work that we do is to help children to find who they are, not create who they are. Or as Brené Brown says, we don't want them to fit in. We want them to feel like they belong, because who they are inside, is honored and loved and appreciated and embraced, and they restore into society. And that's why we practice restorative justice, because we restore children into the community. We don't isolate and push them out and punish them by pushing them further away from the people that should be nurturing and loving them. And the more we can do that, and very kindly and gently help them to release the things that hold them back, that stop them from being who they are. So the loud, brash, young 6-year-old girl who is bringing you 18-year-old attitude, we don't want to take that away. That is magnificent. That is her power. That is her strength. But when it's stopping her from learning, now we've got to figure out, well, what is the thing that's stopping her from learning? Why is she pushing her power and her strength towards anti-learning rather than feeding herself and fighting for herself and her own learning? If we can shift that, if we can fundamentally go back to the fundamentals of where the child starts and what is causing the difficulty and work therapeutically at that level, whether it's physical therapy, like an occupational therapy intervention, or craniosacral therapy intervention, or trauma release, something that's physical, something that's emotional, so play therapy, attachment work, connection with parents, maybe seeing an educational psychologist, maybe CBT work, where we can put their emotions back in play. When we can do all of those beautiful things for them, strengthen and bolster them up so that when they are this incredible child, instead of getting diagnosed with PDA and ODD, we're saying, wow, look at that powerful child, and she's working towards her future and towards her success. So we want to take away the things that are holding the child back. We don't want to take away who they are, because who they are is perfect, but it can only be perfect if we allow it to grow and we allow it to be nurtured and we allow it to point and work in the direction that is fruitful and helpful for them. Not for us, for them. We don't have children so that we can keep them close and keep them for ourselves. We have children and nurture children and teach children so that they can grow and be independent and move on into their beautiful lives and be powerful friends, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, employees, so they can really embrace the fullness of life through who they authentically are. I think that's a really powerful way to go about working with children.